place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping a bomb to people putting up walls. I feel like life is on hold, perception stuck in a vault. I know that time can heal all, but how much time till we fall? It's awfully chilly outside when there's no shelter to hide. When everything is a lie, you'll find that out in some time. But when the things on your mind are all considered a crime, communication aside, we'll all just fight till we die. Is this an argument or just the start of it? Either way, I don't wanna be a part of it. Can I just get some space? I don't have the heart for this. I can't be picking up the pieces, fixing scars from this. Is this an argument or just the start of it? I wanna drive away so I can be so far from it. I wanna find a place where no one breaks their promises. Or maybe drown myself in something that is bottomless. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. I know that things seem bad, but they could be much worse. There's always someone else who has a greater curse, a greater thirst, a hunger, pain, and mercy. Just find whatever you got and try to be thankful first. I wanna feel again, I need a couple friends. I never really understood just how the story ends, but I can feel it's tense, don't know the consequence. The volatility of life, my only confidence. Is this an argument or just the start of it? Either way, I don't wanna be a part of it. Can I just get some space? I don't have the heart for this. I can't be picking up the pieces, fixing scars from this. Is this an argument or just the start of it? I wanna drive away so I can be so far from it. I wanna find a place where no one breaks their promises. Or maybe drown myself in something that is bottomless. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Habari gani? Hotsi hilijang. Hochandit. Servus, salve. Bienvenue. Benvenido. Bonjour tous. Grüß Gott. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania, February 21st, 2024. We are at a later time than normal on a Wednesday, so thanks for tuning in. There is no Wednesdays with a Colonel today. Ronaldo is not available, and initially I thought I would not be available. There was a plan not to do any broadcast today, but here we are, after all, because the event that I went to this morning took far longer than I anticipated. And so the cat may be slightly out of the bag for those watching the program right now. You may have noticed, if you came in at the very beginning, this banner at the top of the page. There you go. Chris Wyatt for the 92nd District State Representative for Pennsylvania. That's what I've been up to for the past few weeks. I have not shared that public with people for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I need to make sure I actually appeared on the ballot for the primary election, which is April 23rd. The petition signing period lasted from January 23rd until February something. I forget what date it was, 13th or something like that. And that was I'm going to tell you all about the experience here. We're going to talk about South Africa's election here because I'm sure people are tuning in for that. The election date has been announced for South Africa's national and provincial elections. That is on May 29th, just over 3 months from today. And the poll numbers do not look encouraging for anyone, ANC, DA, anyone, except upstart new parties that are appearing. And it looks like we may have sclerotic governance in South Africa going forward. I'm not predicting that, but it is a bit of concern. South Africans need to get off their bums, get out and vote, and stop whining about the DA, stop whining about the Freedom Front Plus, stop whining about ACTB. Just go vote, just go vote, just go vote. Mark Myberg saying congrats. I don't know why you're saying congrats. I'm running for office. That says elect Chris Wyatt. So I'll tell you about this. Let me say hi to everybody real quick, and I'll explain what a representative is. Okay. So Peter von Breda says we're early. Well, good to see that, Peter, because I'm late. I'm glad you're early. Dylan Combrick is here. Debbie Morey's here, excuse me. Fiona's promoting her book, which is good, and she's also promoted the channel. Good deal there. Loudy Monday's here. Ulrich Fenter. Come on, YouTube. Stop spinning this thing. All right. White Zulu's here, and that is Fiona, of course. Monterey Seabritz. There is an earthquake. Wow, I didn't see that. Jaco van Bion is back. Eric is here. Brian Lawrenson. Petra Myberg. Roy is in. Yins. That's Western Pennsylvania saying there. And who else? Pierre Orban is here. Have I missed anybody? Debbie says, friends of mine stay in Hershey. They became grandparents. Lovely to see family reunion. We'll get to subscribe to your channel knowing they live outside your ward. Okay. Well, it's not a ward. I'll explain that here in just a moment. So the Caters are still performing their state capture right under our noses. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Explain more about the 92nd District Representative. I'll do that in just a moment. Ben Potgieter is here. Charles Van Onselen, the scientist. Val Cooper, I already think I said hello to. Malcolm Cloty's in. How's the boat? And Samir Franciscus. Wow, from Tbilisi. Samir and I met up in Marseille, folks. We traveled all over. What a day that was. Wasn't it cool, Samir? All these people recognized me. It was crazy, wasn't it? Like, hey! It was pretty cool. We had a good time there in Marseille. Yeah, Samir, good to see you again. It's been a while. YouTube, stop doing this, man. It keeps giving me this spinning stuff, so I'm going to put on pause there so I don't have to stare at that. Yeah, so Teresa's here as well. And all right, so you're a famous person. Well, people say that. I need to be more famous where I'm currently at because that's the challenge. So there's the button there. You can see it there. So let me take that off and not leave it on throughout the broadcast so you guys can see it. That's just a little campaign button right there. Elect Chris Wyatt. So, all right, so here's the spiel. So our government, our representative government, is comprised of federal government and then the states. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is one of the states. We're not the only one who calls themselves a Commonwealth. That's an anachronistic term from the 16th and 17th century, but it is the case. It's the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Those are exceptions. The state of Maryland, state of New York, they don't go with Commonwealth. Anyway, the state of Pennsylvania is comprised of Senate districts, which is the upper body of the legislature, just like the federal government. It mirrors the federal government. We have a judiciary, of an executive. The executive, instead of president, is a governor. The legislature, just like the federal government, has a House and a Senate. So the House being the body that represents the people, the Senate being the body that represents the state as a whole, and then the judiciary. So 3 co-equal branches of government, just like the federal government. So the 92nd district is one of 203 legislative districts in the state of Pennsylvania. Not to be confused with those who go to Washington. These are people who go to Harrisburg and legislate at the state level. There are 203 House seats. There are, I think, 40-some Senate seats, but 203 House seats. So each district is representing approximately 65,000 people. So I'm running in a race to represent 65,000 people in central Pennsylvania. It's a peri-urban district with only a few boroughs or small towns, no major cities in it whatsoever. and it is an overwhelmingly Republican district. However, I'm running in a primary race to compete against other Republicans to be on the ballot for November. The primary election is April 23rd, so I have between now and April 23rd to convince people to vote for me, to introduce myself to people, most of whom have never heard of me. Today, I went to a process at the State House in Harrisburg in which candidates can draw their numbers out of a basket to see where they appear on the ballot. In my case, there are 5 candidates running for this office for the Republican primary. Whoever wins that will then compete against the Democratic contender or any independents in November. So, but the reality is with an overwhelmingly conservative Republican district, whoever wins the primary is more than likely to become the next state representative. Now, when you run in a political race in America, because the entrenched role of political parties like the Democrats and Republicans, it's not in most people's interest unless people are very, very unhappy to run against an incumbent. In this case, the incumbent, who's very popular, is leaving the office to run for the Senate, which is a higher seat. So she will be running for that. Of course, that representative, you've been on the program, if you've been with us for a long time, I interviewed her a couple years ago. That's Dawn Kiefer, who's the current representative for the 92nd. She's a Republican, a conservative, and leader of the Freedom Caucus here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. She will be running for the Senate seat vacated by another Republican, and that's her race. So since she's not running, initially 7 Republicans jumped in and said, I'm going to run for this. And since then, the number is down to 5. 2 have dropped out, but there are 5 people. So with the race split 5 ways, the number of votes needed could be potentially much smaller than you would need in a race with 1 or 2 people. So there you go. All right, so does that answer it? So if I become a state representative, I would go to Harrisburg, which is not far away from me. People in Erie or Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Scranton have a long way to go to Harrisburg, but I would not even have to get a place to live. I live in commuting distance to Harrisburg, so I could commute from my house to go to Harrisburg for legislative sessions and for state business every day, which is very convenient. So if I win the primary in April and then win the general election in November, then in January I would be sworn in as, or late December, 1 of the 2, as the next representative. It's a 2-year term, and that would be what I do, representing 65,000 people. Well, I'm able to continue my show. It's a personal thing, so I would just probably have to change when I'm in session. I wouldn't be able to broadcast at this time, but when not in session, I can broadcast at this time. So yeah. All right, so yeah, 5 countries voting: UK, USA, South Africa. Botswana is also voting this year. That's correct. Botswana is also voting this year. The gift verbally, also patriotic credit. Thank you, Mark. Well, yeah, what I've discovered, now I'll tell you a little bit about this, folks. I'll share this with you, okay? So in order to appear on the ballot, you have to do certain things. Now, depending on the level of the office, you have to do more. So, for instance, if you want to run for the state Senate, which is what Dawn Kiefer is doing, you have to have 1,000 signatures from valid, currently registered voters in that district who are in that political party. So if you're running as a Democrat, they have to be Democrats. If you're running Republican, they have to be Republicans. So if you're independent, I guess anybody can sign it. I'm not sure how that works. I don't think you have to go to registered independents. But the point is, well, there's no primary for independents, so I'm sorry. There is nothing there. But in order to appear on the ballot, you have to have 1,000. In order to appear on the ballot, I have to have 300 signatures, pay $100, submit a statement of financial interest, and an affidavit and application. I did all of that on February 9th. I filed. I had over the 300 signatures on that date, but you want to be safe and secure because people play dirty in politics, and I'm not accusing any of my opponents, but there are other people, lawyers who get involved to try to take out candidates that people don't want, either because they're too impressive or they fear them. Or they think they're illegitimate, one of the 3. And so the petition period ended on the 13th of February, and yesterday, the 20th, was when the appeal or challenge to petitions. Now, how do you challenge a petition? Well, if I go out and get signatures and they're not from registered Republicans, if somebody sees that on my ballot, which is scanned and made available to the public, so you can see that in that week, and people go, wait a second, those people aren't Republicans, and they challenge it, and then the court strikes off those voters. If you get below 300 signatures, you don't appear on the ballot. In my case, I more than got enough. I went to 500 signatures, but I did that. And I explained to my audience why I was broadcasting at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning there for a period of time. That was the petition signing period. And unfortunately, the state of Pennsylvania moved the primary from May to April, which is problematic for candidates, particularly candidates who don't have a lot of experience in politics, running for office, they're not incumbents, or they're not known within a political party, like me. So the challenge was this: going to people's houses during the daytime, you're likely to get a spouse who isn't working, if you're lucky, or you're going to get retirees if you're lucky. And that's about it. Well, sometimes you get people who work from home because there's a lot of that now, and you disturb their conference calls and things like that, and that doesn't particularly go well. The other thing is that people have equipped their houses with these idiotic Ring doorbells, which I hate because people see you on camera and they simply don't come to the door because they don't know you. I answer the door for everyone, but a lot of people don't do that anymore. They just don't want to be bothered. Fair enough. I appreciate that. But I knocked on doors. I got to meet people. I introduced myself, and as a consequence, I got to know a lot of people. So the key now is to get to know more people. There's also a debate coming up in March, participating in a debate with 5 other candidates. We'll see how that goes. I don't imagine it'll be a big challenge. But as I told all of the people whom I met, I'm the best qualified, the most successful candidate standing in this election. So please vote for me. And that's what I did. So anyway, that's why I was doing early morning broadcast. I couldn't tell you that. I did not want to run for this election and then not meet the threshold. But today I found out for sure that I'm on the ballot. Went to the lottery where you draw a tile out of a hat, and they go by the date people filed. I wish I'd known that because I had the signatures. I could have filed sooner. I wish I would have done that, but I want to go over and then file. I should have gone sooner and filed, then I could have gone first. But it doesn't matter because the first person didn't get the best position. They got like 4th position on the ballot, and I got 3rd. So anyway, yeah, so there's 5 candidates, and they list them on the ballot in the order that they were drawn in the lottery. So today, once that happened, I knew there were no challenges. The challenges are supposed to be posted as they come up, but the court system of Pennsylvania, that's where the challenge goes because it's a legal challenge. They didn't post any, and I actually went to Harrisburg yesterday, went there and talked to the court and said, hey, there's nothing posted on the website. The paperwork as a candidate tells me I must check the website frequently to see if there's a challenge to my candidacy. And there are none. He goes, oh, we just started posting them. And I'm thinking to myself, you just started posting. It's 3:30 in the afternoon on the last day that you can challenge. So what the deal? Anyway, so that's what happened yesterday. So that's why I was, it's a lot of work, Debbie, not to mention the fact that every single day for that 3 weeks, I was walking between 4 to 6, as much as 8 hours a day. During the weekdays, I didn't go out until after my broadcast normally. And then I was usually starting that at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, knocking on doors, ringing doorbells all over the district of 65,000 people. I went through at least 5 tankfuls of petrol in my car and put well over 1,000 miles, 1,500 kilometers on my car driving to go to people's homes and knock on the door and ask them to vote for me. It's a very humbling experience after spending 36 years in the Army and basically being able to tell people what to do. Asking for their vote is a very humbling experience. Now, in this race, I would argue that only 2 of the people are actually politicians. One works in politics, but he's not a politician. He just does press stuff. One has been elected official for 18 years. Another is an elected official for the past few years. And then one is a school teacher, and then there's me. So, yeah. Anyway, George says I was like number 50. Number 50 on what, George? On my petition? Okay, try at least half your huge ego at the door. Well, that's a very rude statement there, John Jarvis. When did you get a hair up your backside again? That's a very rude statement there. Wow. Is that a joke? Was it meant as a joke? Hey, Grasshopper. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat that I missed here. So, where did I leave off on this thing? So, Ben Polketer, I got. Chris, you need a break. I always need a break. I work and work and work and work. Yep. Servant leader. That's the role that I've played my entire adult life as servant leader, serving the people. And that's what I'm trying to do again. If I win the primary, then I'll continue on to the November election. If I don't win the primary, then it's no big deal. It just frees me up for my coverage of South African elections. But I am concerned about the trajectory of my country, and I can't sit by on the sidelines. We've talked about me running for office for 3 years. The thing about running for office is you don't want to run against an incumbent, particularly when a political party is already endorsing an incumbent. In this case, there is no incumbent. It's the ideal time to run for a race. So I had actually was planning on running for this race in November, December. I was coy about it. I didn't mention much about it. But what happened was I saw that the senator that covers this region had done a fundraiser, so I assumed that he was going to run for re-election. Why have a fundraiser to raise money for your campaign if you're not running? And then in early January, he announced he was leaving the Senate, which opened up the floodgates. And so I had to change my plans very quickly. So you have a distinguished look and famous for keeping us all in the loop on current affairs. Well, thank you for that, Debbie. I appreciate that. Made the decision to leave South Africa, relocating. Oh, sorry, Ben. It's a shame to hear that. Shame to hear that. how we continue to show. Well, I'll do my show at different hours if necessary. Yeah, absolutely. Laudine is saying, what's going on, Howick? Speak to Biden. He knows how to eliminate the opposition. That's funny. That's funny. It's bitterly cold in the UK. Sorry to hear that. Snow's on its way. Wow. Carlos Mango is here. Welcome, Carlos. Menage a trois. And it's a lot of work and input. It's a lot of work. You have no idea, Debbie. I got to tell you, that hip of mine was bothering me in a couple days. And look, this was a very unfair way that the state does it. For instance, we interviewed on the Common Sense Conservatives a candidate who's running for the same office in Tennessee last week. Now, that candidate gets 2 full months to get signatures, and he has to get about the same number I have to get. I had 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks actually. It's crazy. And doing it in the dark of night. I mean, it was pitch dark at 5 o'clock when I started this, and it was wet and rainy and foggy and cold. And you're standing on people's doorsteps and you're trying to get it. And here's another thing. The state of Pennsylvania will only allow a registered voter to sign 1 petition. Now, you might say 65,000 people. That's not a big deal. Well, the problem is that 4 of the 5, actually all 5 of the candidates for the Republican primary all live within a few miles of each other. So they're all going out and trying to get signatures from the same people initially. And I was successful in my neighborhood and then a neighborhood adjacent. And then I went this direction and I got a few signatures and then started running into, well, I signed so-and-so's petition. I signed, so you have to stop right there. So I had to give up. Then I went to another neighborhood. Oh, I already signed. These kids came around. We supposed to sign it for so-and-so. And anyway, so it became frustrating. So I went to a different township a little further away, and I resonated well there with voters. But then I started running into, oh, well, so-and-so came by, and we signed it already for so-and-so. I'm like, okay. So I went further afield, and then I ran into a reach area which no other candidate had gone to, in the most populous part, and I got a lot of signatures over there. The thing I think is unfair is that Pennsylvania, the way it does this is that when you sign a petition as a registered member of a political party to agree that the person standing in front of you is an appropriate candidate or a good person to run for election to stand, you're not voting. You're not voting. What you sign a petition isn't how you have to vote in the election. It isn't how you have to vote in the election. But they're treated as if it is a vote. And I think that's just wrong, especially when so many people come from the same place. But anyway, mentioned the tallest candidate. Yeah, I am the tallest candidate. That's correct. Laudine has no sound. I have sound. Do you guys have sound? Obviously you do because you're asking me questions. Try and what's that? When will you see South Africa? Well, Patreon, my plan is to be there in May for the elections. That's been the plan all along. RJ says, compared to Chris, yeah, I've been way overqualified. No, but I will say this. I did go to the house of a gentleman, and ironically, it was a place where I nearly bought a house. It's about 18 kilometers from here, east of here, and I went over in that neighborhood to get signatures, and I forgotten that I didn't realize until I drove up there. I'm like, wait a second, I came here and looked at a house, but I didn't buy the house because the house that I was looking at was on the road curved like this. It goes around like this, and the hills on the house on the right-hand side looked out over a huge valley you can see for like 50 kilometers. Beautiful view, trees and mountains, gorgeous view. The house on the other side, the hill went straight down. You couldn't see anywhere. And how am I going to mow that yard? So I decided not to buy a house there. Plus, it was too small and it just felt cramped. So I didn't buy a house there. Ironically, I went back to that street, and that's where I got a bunch of signatures. I think I had 27 signatures on that street. And I knocked on a gentleman's house. He's a retired warrant officer from the U.S. Army. He invited me in, and he didn't know anything about me, so I talked about myself. And he was happy to sign my petition. And then he said, would you like something to drink? Would you like to sit down? Would you like to use the restroom? I said, yes, I've been walking for 5 hours, and I've had to pee for 5 hours. So, yeah, you can't just whip it out and go on somebody's lawn. So unless you're in a place, I did find... After that, later, I found a petrol station, which was next to the highway, the interstate, which is a place where I went over to 2 different townships. And so I would stop there, go and buy an iced tea or, some biltong or something like that. It's not real biltong, it's jerky. Something to snack on, and I would use the restroom. Yeah, and so that made it so much more pleasant. I held going wee for like 6 hours one day. I just didn't go. Now imagine that, holding that wee for 6 hours when you got to go and trying to talk to people over and over again. Running as a Republican, David, not as an independent. What a great, awesome. Well, thank you. You're just so kind there. I appreciate that, Debbie. Very kind of you. Yep. Whether UK traumatizes people. One is a principle, the other is a preference, voting versus petition. Right. Exactly. The petition is just signing a piece of paper saying that this person should be on the ballot. So I don't like the way that they do it here. Yes, Charles, you can damage something by holding it in, but I had to get signatures. No one was doing it for me. I did have a couple people volunteer to help me out and got some signatures on the side discreetly, which helped me out. But I would say that 85% of the signatures that I garnered, I got myself by knocking on doors. It's a very exhausting and time-consuming and frustrating experience, to say the least. Yeah, but nonetheless. Anyway, so before we get to the South African elections, here you go. So there you go. So Chris Wyatt, 92nd State Representative. There you go, folks. There you go, folks. Anyway, so your back teeth, my back teeth were floating. Absolutely, absolutely floating. Yep. Yep. Anyway, so yeah. So that's what's going on. South Africa has announced its election date. It's May 29th. May 29th, folks. South Africa are holding their national election and provincial election on May 29th. And lots happening. The ANC is desperately trying to have the new Mkhonto we Sizwe party removed from the ballot. In addition, other parties have had their registration removed. And one of those is one that came up with a banner that looks very similar to the EFF. Now, people are trying to copy the EFF. That's funny. City Press runs this story. So let me give you this story here real quick. Make sure you get the right window open here. There we go. There we go. EFF, or the ELF insists it didn't copy the EFF after the Independent Electoral Commission bars their registration over similar branding. So there's the EFF's logo with a clenched fist and a spear and oil derricks, even though there's no oil in South Africa, and then a green Africa with a star over it. And the ELF came up with a similar thing in which they put a castle instead of a fist with a highway, and they put the star to the side, the Black Star of Africa. Yeah, and they say that they weren't copying the EFF. That's almost comical. So, well, he looks angry. Following an unsuccessful attempt to register the party ahead of the national election, the Economic Liberators Forum has launched an appeal against the decision by the IEC. The IEC rejected the ELF's application to register its party earlier this month after they objected to the registration of the party. The EFF did. This came after the EFF wrote to the IEC arguing the party's logo and colors were similar and likely to confuse voters. The party president, Lusani Mani, lambasted the IEC for not registering the party. The IEC is not an extension of the EFF. As a result, it has no duty or capacity to facilitate an objection on behalf of the EFF when the EFF has unequivocally failed to submit the objection to the Gazette. We therefore humbly submit that the objection to the IEC should be set aside. He continued, he said the IEC should have responded to such informal correspondence on its own without unlawfully converting the same into a formal process, as if the EFF objection was raised in response to the Gazette when it was not. So the EFF, apparently, according to the ELF, keeping up with all these new parties, the MPC, it's crazy. The ELF apparently is lodging a complaint that the EFF did not follow the process, something that the ANC is doing against Mkhonto we Sizwe. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, they're all coming out of the woodwork in South Africa now, folks. They're all coming out of the woodwork. Yep, they're all coming out of the woodwork. So that's what's going on there, and we have an election coming up. And look, what are the odds it's going to go well for South Africans? I don't know, folks, but it's up to you, the electorate. I exhorted, I encouraged, I almost begged South Africans to go to the polls in November of 2021 for municipal elections when the ANC, remember they tried to scuttle those elections because of COVID? Oh, we can't have an election. What a crock. What a crock that was. And so they had it on the last day they could possibly have it without violating the law, which was like November 1st, I think it was. Yeah, and ours was November 2nd. In that election, I begged South Africans to go out. And what did you all do? 31% of the electorate went out and voted. Now, if 31% go out now, we'll see what happens. But the ANC, which is wildly unpopular, nonetheless is able to. And I saw Neil de Beer on Latnak with Rion, I guess, the show on CakeNet, in which he was interviewed. Chris Pappas was on there, and they brought Neil de Beer out. And Neil de Beer speaking English in Afrikaans, of course, Rion speaking a lot of Afrikaans. I had to listen closely. But Neil de Beer was saying that the ANC is not running an election campaign. They're running a logistics campaign. And what they do is they lease all of the vehicles. They lease all of the combis, all of the buses that they can possibly find in the country to suck up all the transportation to pick up their supporters, whether they like to vote or not, and drive them to polling stations to vote on Election Day. And Neil de Beer, of course, he was in the African National Congress and understands this very well, has hit on something that political parties in South Africa should have caught on to a long time ago. You should have been clever in using your money to lease or secure all this transportation so the ANC wouldn't have it available, whether you use it or not. Should have thought about that a long time ago. Okay, so I see the ADA application to the High Court to have catered deployment on country show has been denied. That was not listed when I went live. Okay. Amazing how many rats come out of the sewer to create a new party. Agreed, Crocotopia. Agreed. Yeah, it happens all over. Rats coming out of the woodwork in South Africa. Dylan wants Biltong. Designated town as a sister city to Orania. What? Yeah. They all want to take a ride in a big gravy train. Exactly. They want their blue light escorts. They want their fame. They want their salary. They want all of that stuff. Yeah, I was asked some strange questions in my petition period. I was asked about my view on homosexuality. That kind of caught me off guard. I was asked if I was voting for Trump, which didn't catch me off guard. But the only person who wouldn't sign my petition, who just simply flat out refused because of something I said. I had people who said no because they just don't. I don't sign petitions. They didn't want to hear them. Sign. The only person who flat out refused was the person who said no because I told them who I was voting for. But they asked. That's why I told them. I'm not going to lie to them. Yep. Imagine all those people they pick up for votes for other parties. It'll be a free ride. Yeah, but it won't be the case. They'll hand out their KFC 3-piece Streetwise, their T-shirts. They'll take them to the polling stations, and they'll get what they need. Yeah, but that gravy train. Ooh, they want that gravy train. Yep, absolutely. That's what's going on here. All the money that comes as a consequence of being a political party or being a political candidate. It is unbelievable. So, the Times Live put a poll out there and says, which party will get your vote in the May election? Do you know which party will get your vote in May? Look at all those banners plastering those polls. South Africans go to the poll on May 29th. President Ramaphosa announced. President Ramaphosa announced a date for this year's national and provincial elections. Elections are expected to be hotly contested, with some citizens saying they'll use the ballot to remove the governing ANC. Well, they need more than some. They need a lot. So here's the poll. Do you know which political party will get your vote in May? The commission said there are 27.6 million registered voters. That's registered voters. So that's the pot you've got to go after, 27.6 million. The DA is going to have to do better than 4 million. They're going to have to do better than 4 million, which they did before. They need to get 5.5, 6 million to show improvement in this election. The ANC, which got less than 10 million last time, is going to drop down to about 8 million this time. Yep. MK will be an ANC trump card. The apparent disagreement is polite. Well, I don't disagree, Alan. They will happily form a coalition. That's why I thought it was not the smartest thing for John Steenhuisen of the Democratic Alliance to say, hey, the MK is helping us. They're not helping you. They may help you unseat the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, and then they'll pick which side of the fence they want to sit on, but they're not really helping you. Can't wait till voting is over, says RJ. Marcy Mostella is our state rep in Butler. She's a good rep, as best I know. Okay, Roy, I don't know her. Imagine all those people they pick. Okay, what else? I don't know where those posters were put at, Debbie. I don't know, but obviously it must be current because Action SA didn't compete in a national election before, and Cyril Ramaphosa and Herman Mashaba are on those posters, so they must be for this election. General elections in the UK, I don't know the date of that. So, the IEC, the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, talks about 3 different ballots that you will have to choose from here. So, in a press release, the IEC explains how to navigate the vote. In previous elections, there were only 2 ballots, a national ballot for the National Assembly, Parliament, and a provincial ballot for the provincial legislature. Now the 3rd ballot will be for the regional seats reserved for each of the regions in the National Assembly. Because a region refers to the same territory as a province, the terms regional and provincial are simply to distinguish between the seats reserved for that region in Parliament and seats of that Parliament for provincial. Are you confused? I am. In the Western Cape, voters receive at their voting stations a national ballot, the same as for the whole country, where you vote for a political party only. A Western Cape regional ballot is a vote for an independent or party to fill the regional seats reserved in Parliament in the Western Cape. And a Western Cape provincial ballot, this is a vote for an independent or party for the Western Cape provincial legislature. So there you go. Are you confused? I know I am. 400 seats in the National Assembly, a total of 200 reserved for the regional seats. Each province gets a number of regional seats based on the number of voters in that province. Independents and parties contest for these seats. The remaining 200 seats in the National Assembly are filled by list of political parties only, as independents are already catered for an okay. Are you confused? I know I'm confused. And how can you predict what the outcome is when this is what we know? It's crazy. Cray, folks. Cray. Yep. Anyway, what's going on here? So vote rigging Zim style. Yeah, Carlos. It's interesting because Botswana, which has a national election this year, their IEC went to Zimbabwe to learn how to run elections. Botswana. is benchmarking its elections against Zimbabwe's elections under Emerson Mnangagwa. Wow. 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 Crazy. In May. They haven't given a date. Okay, Zulu. So, yes, there's going to be some big elections in May and followed by here in the States in November. But, of course, we got all the primaries in the meantime. March 5th is Super Tuesday. This Saturday is the South Carolina primary, in which Nikki Haley is going to be slaughtered. Yep. You vote for Feldrift, Cape Province, and the National. Well, then basically, Mark, what you're saying is that in that description, you're voting for local, provincial, and national elections. Why don't they just say that instead of saying regional? Regional is the same. It's a region. A province is in a region. So it's very confusing what the IEC's come up with. But, they're not exactly known for their transparency. All I can say is no racism in Botswana, but what can we learn there from elections? Well, we can learn a lot from elections in the past, but with Masisi and the massive corruption that seeped into Botswana's government and civil society since he became president, I don't think you're going to learn anything from what's going on in Zimbabwe. That's not a wise move. Botswana should not be looking to Zimbabwe for its election benchmarks. That's not a good case. Not a good case to go with. Anyway, so, well, the IEC also wants urgent Concord decision on signature requirements, which is the petition, which I just did. IEC wants the signature requirements matter finished before the elections. Well, of course. It says an essential function underpinning a free and fair election is that the rules must be transparent to all. Really? Mm-hmm. Electoral Commission of South Africa wants the Constitutional Court to urgently finalize a decision on how many signatures new parties need to allow for free and fair elections. This is contained in the Commission's heads of argument after political think tank Rivonia Circle and Build One South Africa filed an urgent court application at the Apex Court citing respondents as President Ramaphosa, the Speaker of the Assembly. Anyway, the IC said in court papers the abiding consideration should be the need for certainty as soon as possible. A key function underpinning free and fair election is that the rules must be transparent to all. Unrepresented political parties must know the threshold for their participation in election so that they can prepare themselves accordingly. There you go. So the court ruled that independent candidates need 1,000 signatures in order to be on the ballot. But they were unclear about unregistered political parties, which is something that they need to work on. Well, Enoch Gondwana has delivered his State of the Nation's Finance address, and we're going to have a lot to talk about that probably tomorrow, not so much today. John B. Wells got John B. Wells to retweet Chris' election banner 2 minutes ago. Well, thank you for that, Hendo. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. At least ANC has given you a date for their elections. We only have some time in May. You're right about that. Lewin says, I just don't think there should be an IEC. I don't think they're independent. Well, I would not argue with that. We've seen where they make mistake after mistake, and then they just ignore people unless lawyers show up. Yep. No, I mean, we saw that with the Forum for Democrats in Northwest Province. The Forum for Democrats earned a seat, and the IEC ignored them in violation of the law until attorneys got involved, and then suddenly things changed. Well, they can learn what to not do from elections in Zimbabwe, but I guarantee you, Charles, Masisi, who is buddy, chummy, chin-wagging with Emerson Mnangagwa all the time, they are fast friends. He's not learning what not to do. He's learning how to make sure he doesn't lose the election. Amount of parties should be an indicator that the country is homogenous as a pipe dream. Huh? There's 360-plus parties competing for the election, so I don't really understand that comment. Maybe I just missed something in the conversation. So 99 people here. We're at 108 a few minutes ago. So thanks, folks. Be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. That costs you nothing but a moment of your time.
That was easy.
Yo, it sure was easy. Just hit that like button. So right there, you get a release of endorphins and you feel much better about your day. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. Yeah, so South Africa goes to the polls on May 29th. What do you think is going to happen? All right, I'm going to put a prediction up, okay? Start a poll, okay? ANC will get what percentage of the VOT? Okay, I'm going to put Windows here. Okay. All right. Well, that's not right. I'm missing a 0 there. Okay. Come on, boy. This typing is not going well for me. Add an option. Actually, got to change that. I did it wrong here. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And one more option. Okay. All All right, folks, here it is. The ANC will get what percentage of the vote? Okay, you got 4 options there. All right, and the poll is up, and you can vote in the poll now. Yep. I have my Staples like button for 15 years. Yeah, mine is at least 15 years old. It's Staples, yeah, at least 15 years old. I've only changed the battery, I think, 1 time in 15 years. It's pretty good stuff. Doesn't matter. We can't directly elect our leaders. That's true, Ben Potgieter. But here in Pennsylvania, you can directly elect your leaders, and you can go to the polls on April 23rd if you are in the 92nd District of Pennsylvania, and you can vote for Chris Wyatt if you're a Republican. You have to be a registered Republican. Yeah, that's correct. Light Rain, there's no need to make that obvious statement. That doesn't help. Thank you. I don't need to know that. I'm quite aware of that, the comment you put in there. I'm not answering your question. It's not helpful. Doesn't matter. We can't directly elect our leaders. I think South Africa will be, what's this? Surprised with the referendum party numbers. Can I put, I don't know. You can do that, but yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Not coming to the U.S., says Ben Potgieter. Okay, well, I don't know where you're going, man, but good luck to you there. If it's Georgia. Samir's here from Georgia today, from Tbilisi. Yep, how's it going in Tbilisi there, Samir? Boy, that was a good time. I had a good time with Samir. It was nice to be in France and run into people who knew me. Also, people wanted to hang out with me. Samir and I had a great time. We went to that, we hung out in Marseille that day. We went to the game. Avoided all the heavy traffic. We sat out there, listened to people dancing, and quite an interesting festival taking place out front of the stadium there in Marseille. And what was cool is that I'd forgotten to get a South Africa rugby scarf, and while I was there, I actually remembered to get one. It was like the last chance I had to get one because they only sold them at games where South Africa was playing, and I had never bought the scarf. I don't know why. I thought I had, but anyway, so I did buy it, and it was my last chance to get it. And it was actually an afterthought. We were sitting there on the steps chatting. I'm thinking, I don't have a scarf. And I went over there, only a few of them left, and I went and got my scarf. Okay. Tbilisi's great, really quiet here now. The weather's a bit cold this time of year. I imagine so. Reminds me of a Stalin quote. When it comes to democracy, the only vote that counts is yeah, that's right. The person counting the votes. Yep, I hear you. Yeah, I did announce. But Light Rain, answer your question. Yeah, well, I stand by my content. I stand by it. Yeah. So, and no, as far as no, some people obviously find out, but I tell them about my radio show, and I tell them about my biography, and I tell them about my positions, and you don't get that much time to talk to people. If people ask me about it, I won't hide, of course. I mean, why would I hide it? I have nothing to be ashamed of here. But no, it's not something that normally comes up. Well, libs can hate me all they want, but this race isn't against liberals, it's against conservatives, and if I don't win in April, then I'm done. If I do win in April, then I'm in a district that's overwhelmingly Republican and conservative, so they can hate on me all they want. They would have to have an incredibly massive miracle to win the general election against any Republican in the fall. It's highly unlikely that they would win the election against any Republican. Any one of the 5 candidates is likely to go straight to victory unless they, walking down the street doing something crazy. Yeah, so I've answered your question, Light Rain, but that's not helpful to bring that up. Yeah, but then, I'm always transparent. I answer your questions, so yeah, so I was joking about not answering it. I just wanted to see if you hung around. Anyway, French, awesome experience, how magic meet up. Oh, it was really cool. It was, Debbie, that was really cool. And also met up with one of my viewers in Bordeaux, the last place I expected. As I said, I was walking in Bordeaux. I went to the South Africa game against Romania, I think it was. I think it was Romania. I left, got on the train, went downtown to the fan park, which I had not been to because it was closed, and now it's open because there was a game coming after that. And the reason I went to the fan park is just to get experience to see how it is. Some of them are very good, some were quite lame. Anyway, I went there in Bordeaux, and I was looking for the stands where they sell kit because sometimes they sell different things. And in fact, I found one thing there that I couldn't find elsewhere. It was like a little bear for a World Cup, so I bought that. Anyway, when I was there, I'm walking through, in hot sunlight blazing, walking through, and all of a sudden someone snaps to attention and salutes me. I'm like, whoa, what? Okay, hi. And I saluted back, and he's like, Colonel, how are you? I'd never seen the person before. They're one of my viewers. I had been on the program, and he's a South African who works in IT, in information technology, lives in Bordeaux, and was there. So I went and I said, hey, and took off. And then later when I went back, I walked back a certain route. There are multiple ways to go back. And as I'm walking back that route, he's across the street and he sees me in a pub and he waves me down. And so then I went over and hung out at the pub for a little bit and had a beer. And then the next day, there was an event. I'm sorry, the South African game was the next game. This was the previous game I went to, Chile. Chile, that was that day. The next game was South Africa. And then at the South African game, I went to this place where there was a party with some expats and Aussies and stuff there. And I went to this thing, and I saw him and the friends again there. It was pretty cool. So in Bordeaux, I hung out with South Africans like 3 different times, even though I know nobody in Bordeaux. It was really cool. Let's see. Been to Bordeaux to see the vineyards. Well, I didn't see any vineyards in Bordeaux. I was in town, so I did see the town. It was impressive, the downtown, but it's a big town. Bordeaux has a famous history, of course, too. An account with Time Bank, and half my money's gone. I don't know what Time Bank is, Ben Potgieter. Never heard of that. Why is half your money gone? That's pretty frightening. Unfortunately, we have to realize our country will be in mayhem. Doesn't matter which way we go, so have a look at our crimes. Yeah, no, Patron, I think you're right about that. But you can arrest the decline and perhaps reverse it if you get rid of the ANC. The ANC has done so much harm. And the people who voted for the ANC are the ones responsible for this. You voted for this chaos. You voted for this misery. You voted for 3 times as many black South Africans living in abject poverty and 10 times as many white South Africans living in abject poverty as did under the National Party. You voted for this. If you voted for the ANC, you are culpable. You are responsible. And you need to take responsibility in the 2024 national election by not voting for them and voting for a different party and not the EFF. Or MK. Yep. All right, Mike, congratulations. You're going to be in the ballot in your district. Are you running for legislature or what are you running for? What are you running for there? All right, so we'll put that back up. There you go. Woo, there you go. Woo, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Anyway, so how many votes we get? 59 votes so far. That's cool. 91 people here, 59 votes. Let's see how many more people vote in this poll. What do you think the ANC is going to get? Now, I've been very clear from the outset. In early November, right after the municipal elections in 2021, I predicted 38 to 42%. I figured 42% would be the high end, 38 would be the low end, but that was before we had 2 years of massive load shedding, before the corruption continued to spiral out of control, before South Africa was gray listed. Financial transactions are painful now for South Africans. It was before the Rand collapsed to 19 to 1. It was before any of that. And I projected that the ANC would get 38 to 42%. I don't know what they're going to get now. What do you think they're going to get? What do you think they're going to get? Mark says, if you don't vote, don't have a say and should shut up. Well, I agree. Start the big lie. I used all my savings, paid off my bond and vehicle, cut up credit card, now broke, living hand to mouth, but debt free. I'm sorry to hear you're broke, and I understand why you're broke unless you lost employment or lost a business or something like that, Gypsy Backpackers. But it is good being debt free. Wish I was debt free. I've got a mortgage in my house. I'm seeing a freaking spot here. Hope my eye didn't tear again. Seeing a floater in my eye there. I haven't had a floater for ages. Anyway, so yeah, wow, that is very disturbing, that floater. It just came there. Anyway, so enormous expansive house near our village. It was flying a South African flag. Yeah, no, I think it was Koketso Rezani. He published something on his Twitter, and he showed statistics for people in America of origin from Pakistan, from South Africa, from wherever around the world, against white Americans, black Americans, Hispanic Americans, all of which are at the bottom. And all of these people have a household income well north. The average American, $65,000, but South African Americans, $98,000 in household income, shows that they perform well. The ANC, of course, calls those people traitors because they abandoned South Africa. But the point of the story is that the best and brightest oftentimes are leaving South Africa for greener pastures because of the decay. And that is not good for South Africa. You need your best accountants. You need your best engineers, your best mechanics, your best farmers, your best electricians, your best plumbers, your best structural engineers. You need all the best you can get. And South Africa trains some of the most talented people on the planet. And then they just leave because they can't get a job because they're being discriminated against because of racism. They can't get a job because of the collapsing economy. Can't get a job because of patronage and they're not part of the favored group. It's crazy. And this is how you destroy a country. Zimbabwe showed us how to destroy countries. Before that, Tanzania under Julius Nyerere showed us how to destroy an economy and impoverish people. Then Zimbabwe did the same thing, and now the ANC's doing it. So every 20 years, one of these African states just shows the world how not to run a country. Yep. I look at the immigrants the same way my actions were in any foreign country that I've been to. Learn the language and customs when in Rome. Do as the Romans, adapt or leave. Agreed, Roy. Agreed. That's why I speak, parts and degrees of fluency for 6 different languages. Always try. Is it still going to be nasty soon since MK threatened the ANC if they rig anything? I didn't see MK threaten the ANC. That's interesting. How do you explain that to the poor and uneducated, especially in rural areas? Well, you have to be there for number one, Petra, but people aren't there. People aren't there. You know, the argument that I heard when I started my broadcast 4 years ago with South Africans is that, well, this isn't from all of you. These are people who've come and gone. Well, wait, I can't go there. I can't go to those places. Why can't you go to those places? I've been to Kailicha. I've been to Mitchell's Plain. I've been to Alexandria. I've been to Shoskavuvwe, whatever it's called there, North Pretoria. That's the one that scared me the most. Yeah. I'm not saying go in there and do it, but just because I have a pale complexion doesn't mean that I shouldn't try to address or engage other people. You're not going to get everybody. You're not going to convince everyone. I mean, like the lady who slammed the door in my face when she asked me who I'm voting for, and I said, well, I'll vote for Trump. Given the choice between Trump and Biden, I don't really have a choice. It's Trump. I'm voting for Biden. And she slammed the door in my face. Well, that's your prerogative, ma'am. That is your prerogative. But you don't have to be rude to me because I told you the truth. I mean, if I lied to you, then I can understand you being mad or being rude to me. But I told her the truth. She asked me, and I told her I'm not going to compromise my principles or lie just to get a signature on a petition or to get a vote. Not going to lie to get a vote either. People ask me questions, I'll answer them honestly. Some things are complicated. Some things require context. And if a question that I'm asked requires context, I'll happily say that this requires context. And let me explain it. Yep, that's how the world works. But some people just want to be emotional about things. And, the other thing, too, is that, look, a lot of things that I believe in are simply not feasible. For instance, if I were elected to the Pennsylvania legislature, the governor's a Democrat. So many things that I think that need to be corrected in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania would never be passed. The Republicans don't control the House. They do have control of the Senate, but in neither body do they have the 2/3 necessary to override a veto. And the governor will veto everything unless it's more spending. This state wants to spend 8.2% more this coming year than it did this year. Why? For what? With no additional revenue. By the way, speaking of which, on Gondawana's finance address to the nation, he's going to increase taxes on multinational corporations. Oh yeah, that's going to help South Africa chase away more foreign direct investment, lead to more divestment. People divested from South Africa in the 1980s because of Soweto and apartheid, the divestment campaign. Well, guess what? The divestment campaign is unofficially underway in South Africa, and billions of dollars are fleeing the shores of South Africa, and foreign investors are shunning it. Look at the mining indaba. Only 1% of the global capital invested in new mining ventures around the world is going to be spent in South Africa. 1%. Less than 1%. When 10 years ago, it was over 5% of that global capital. That tells you something about how unattractive South Africa is. And why is South Africa unattractive? Let's just go through the list of reasons why it's unattractive. Again, for people listening, don't infer from this a dislike or distaste for South Africa. My audience knows that I love South Africa, and I find South Africans to be infinitely fascinating. It's an amazing place, full of amazing people, and just amazing opportunity for those who aren't cramped by the racist and the inept policies of the ANC. But let's just run through the reasons why South Africa is not a good investment destination. Number one, the country's gray listed. That complicates getting your money out of the country and getting your money into the country. So that's a problem, because they facilitated terrorists by not having strict financial controls and corrupt organizations and racketeering. So they're gray listed. That's number one. That makes it difficult to get your money in and out. Number two, the country introduces racial legislation intended to discriminate against minorities. And number three, they demand equity if you start a business. For instance, Starlink, this fantastic satellite-based broadband internet at relatively affordable, they're not affordable, relatively affordable prices, but fantastic for remote areas that can't be cabled up and don't have WiMAX or something like that. They're fantastic. South Africa would not, the ICASA, that's the communications agency, would not issue a license to Starlink to operate in South Africa unless Elon Musk and Starlink gave 30% of their equity to people who are friends of the ANC to enrich their friends. That's another reason. That's racist. It's also corrupt, and a business cannot do corrupt. American business cannot do that. That is not allowed. That is a corrupt business practice. You will be sanctioned and you go to jail for doing that in South Africa, right here in America. And so that's the next one. There's no electricity. You cannot install computers and advanced diagnostic machines and machinery that's going to be damaged continually because the power surges, it stops, it goes on, it goes off, spikes up and down. Never mind the fact that you can't run a business when you have no power. Let's move on to the next step. Well, why do you need power? Well, for cameras, for security gates, for alarms, for response mechanism, for bollards that go up and down, things like that. Because South Africa is an incredibly dangerous country. Homes, residences, businesses are broken into, people raped and murdered every single day. 84 people murdered in South Africa every day. So any business that wants to invest in South Africa has to spend a fortune on security, hire its own guard force, or pay G4S or somebody like that. And the infrastructure is collapsing, crumbling. People don't drive on the road. They drive in the potholes in South Africa. It's insane. The rails are falling apart. The infrastructure ripped apart. The actual rails ripped up. The cables to power them torn down. The communications lines along the rail all ripped up for the copper. It's insane. And the cops know where this is happening. In Cape Town, one of my viewers drove me right by the spot where the cable thieves habitually melt the rubber off of the copper so they can go sell to junkers. Why is that allowed to happen? I know where it's at in Cape Town. I can show you right now where it's happening every single freaking day. Why are cops not there? Well, it just moved elsewhere. Well, why don't you stop it with enforcement? Why don't you actually deter people from this crime? No, because the amount of harm that's done is insane. You destroy good infrastructure or homes and rob people of services to get a few cents on the dollar for recycling a metal. The recyclers are complicit in this. The police are complicit in this. The judicial system's complicit in this. So that's a problem. Infrastructure, electricity, security. And then you have an abysmally low productivity rate. Look, don't take offense, South Africans. You shouldn't take offense. But the fact of the matter is this. You have one of the worst productivity rates on the planet. You have people who are world class. They're educated, they're talented, they're black, they're white, they're brown, they're everything. And they can perform and exceed and excel in spite of the system working against them in South Africa. But much of your workforce is not at that level. When the government sets graduation standards for entry into university at 30, 30, and 30% in 3 subjects on the matrix and 40% in your first language, no wonder you have an abysmal workforce. That is the education level, the critical thinking level, which is not where it needs to be. Then on top of that, you have the fact that you have just lazy people. We all have lazy people. We have a lot of lazy people in America right now who refuse to go to work. But South Africa, you have an epidemic. You have an epidemic of entitlement, of people who demand because things have been given out for free, or we deserve because we were oppressed, or we deserve because we're being oppressed now. No, you don't deserve anything. Go earn it. And then on top of that, you have the highest HIV number of people infected on the planet. 7.8 million South Africans out of 63 million are HIV positive. Many of those people must be on antiretrovirals to keep their CD4 counts high enough so that they're not killed by opportunistic infections. 7.8 million. And you have another 600,000 who are suffering from co-infection with tuberculosis. These people miss work all the time. Absenteeism is rife because they're not well. This makes South Africa an incredibly unattractive place to invest in. There's the bottom line, folks. And now you want to increase taxes on multinational corporations? Talk about being stupid. Talk about being idiotic. But you know why they're doing this? This is crass electioneering. Well, we're not going to raise taxes on South Africans until after the election. We're not raising taxes on South Africans. We're going to raise on multinationals. Do you know how many South Africans I know who actually work for multinationals? I've met so many South Africans through my program and my meet and greets who actually work for American companies or Canadian companies or Brit companies, but they work in South Africa because they're affordable. If you raise the taxes on those corporations, a lot of those people are going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their jobs. Unbelievable. Let's back to the chat here. All right. So what am I missing here? Got 79 votes now. That's cool. Try to get to 100 votes on that poll. Live in the UK, it's also turning into a swamp. It is. They ban demonstrations there unless you're a Palestinian or Hamas supporter. Then you can do what you want. Patriots, I worked on the ground, housing in the areas as a white woman where general people would not walk. Well, Patriot, you and I are exceptions. You and I are exceptions. It wasn't directed at you or directed at me. It was directed at all the people who used to come on this channel and make these complaints. If you have a political party and you have a standard and you have positions, you should be able to recruit people from all ethnic groups. Don't focus on one. That's part of the problem. What else we got here? Mark says, I'm beautiful in my ignorance about Africa. Really? Do tell, Mark. Do tell. Okay. A whole slew of mostly medical experts left South Africa to live in other countries in the 1980s. Well, it continued after that, Fiona. It continued in the 1990s and 2000s. Canada, the United Kingdom, the U.S., New Zealand, Australia are complicit in the theft of qualified nurses in particular from all over Africa, but particularly Southern Africa. Hundreds of thousands of qualified nurses are not working in Africa because they're working in the Western world. Because we get them educated, they come here, they work hard, and it's we don't have enough nurses because not enough people go into it. So it's a shame. I think the 29th of May there'll be probably low levels of load shedding. Good Lord, that's hard to say. Greatest nightmare seeing ANC, MK, and EFF band together after election. Possible. A huge investment the moment I get to New Zealand. Fields are full of swans. Okay, that's interesting. Cats is here. What's left of the roads. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Not on the potholes. They drive on what's left. They don't drive on the roads. They drive on what's left of the roads. Yep. Unfortunately, a distinct possibility. Some society bill break. Okay. Same problem in Dirt Bin, says Charles. I have no sound, Chris, because my headphones were plugged in. Getting old. Not for... Hey, Lonnie. All right. At least you figured it out, Loudie, and you figured out what the issue was. Government South Africa makes more money off crime than they would make normally. That may be true. Rod is from the top. Yeah, Munir Palapala is the biggest transgressor in the lot here. Yep. Shut them down. Shouldn't allow recycling of copper. Police stations are right by the train stations, yet they get pillaged. Yep. Sense of entitlement has to stop. Agreed. 82 votes. We need 18 more now to get that good sampling of 100 votes. If you haven't voted in the poll, please vote to see. It's anonymous. No one's going to know what you said. If you use a 30% neurosurgeon, you deserve him. Exactly, Mark. But you don't know who the 30% neurosurgeon is. If you're just a consumer, you don't know. You don't know that the structural engineer who's building the bridge that you're going to drive over got 46% in maths. Yep. Kurt says, what do you mean you can buy a degree? Well, I didn't buy my degrees. I earned all of them. What's this radio tower in Oklahoma? I didn't hear about that. Okay. All right. What else? 80% of workforce was there to collect a salary when they still worked, and the same people still got progressed ahead of the actual workers. Agreed. Well, I saw that. I saw that in 2000 when I was at OR Tambo. I was supposed to go to Harare, and I had a truck with my colleague Paul Horlocker and his son. We drove around Botswana, and we went up to Zimbabwe. We're supposed to go to Harare. We went to Vic Falls. We had a bakkie with 168 liters with the auxiliary tank in the truck, and then we bought 4 20-liter jerry cans, so we had extra 80 liters, so that's 240, almost 250 liters of fuel. We drove to Vic Falls, then we drove to Bulawayo. We went to Masvingo for Great Zimbabwe, and we were in contact with the embassy, and they said there's no fuel here. The Zimbabweans haven't paid the Kuwaitis for the pipeline coming up from Mozambique, so they've turned off the fuel supply. We have fuel at the embassy, but we can't share our fuel with you because we need it for operations, so our recommendation is you go back to Botswana. Well, we did. We drove back to Botswana. We drove from Masvingo back to Bulawayo. We went to Matopos and saw Cecil Rhodes' grave site, and then, or marker anyway, and then we drove on to Botswana. When we got to Francistown, we had poured all of the 20-liter jerry cans into the tank. We got to Francistown. I topped up the vehicle. Remember, the tank and the auxiliary tank together, 168 liters of petrol. We had 5 liters of petrol left. It took 163 liters to fill up that truck. Ooh, ooh, that was something else. That was something else. Why was I telling that story? There was a reason for that story. There was a reason for that story. I don't know why I started telling that story. When you walk through Africa, it looks like Miami, palms everywhere. Oh, people begging. I still don't understand what your point was, Mark. You didn't say. Oh, that's it. The actual workers. Thank you. That's what it was. Okay. 80% of the workforce is there to collect the salary. So that's why I went to OR Tambo. And because I had days now that were going to be spent in Harare, which are available, and my return flight and everything else is already booked. So now I have a window. So I had basically 3 or 4 days. So I contacted our embassy in Windhoek and said, hey, listen, I suddenly have time available. I didn't put Windhoek in there. I wanted to go to Namibia, but it wasn't on my trip originally. Now because I can't go to Harare, can I come there? So they gave me a country clearance to come there from our embassy. So I went to OR Tambo, and I booked a flight with South African Airways at the airport at the SAA desk. Now, there was a white woman, an Afrikaans-speaking woman who was working. She was on the phone. There were 4 black women standing around, playing with their nails, chatting away in some language, which at the time I didn't recognize. I didn't know it because I had not spent as much time in South Africa as I have now. And so they were chatting, and they ignored me. I'm standing at the counter politely waiting. They just ignored me, completely ignored me. Then finally one of them came over and said, what do you need? I said, well, I want to book a ticket. Oh, well, she can take care of it. So the white lady finally got off the phone. So she booked my ticket to Windhoek. In a conversation with her, I asked, why are they standing around? She said, well, I have to train them, and then I'm going to be fired. I won't be here anymore. Yep, that's what was going on in 2000, 6 years after it all changed. Yep. I have spoken to university professor ordered to lower math standards for graduation in Pennsylvania. That's just stupid. That's dumb. That is dumb. Okay, I really appreciate your channel. Thanks for the excellent content. We would really like to meet you next time you're in South Africa. God bless. Cats, where are you at? Give me an idea where you're at so I can remember that. Where in South Africa? In the Garden Route? Are you in Amanzimtoti, Dirtbin? Are you in somewhere else in KZN, in Northern Cape, Western Cape? Yeah. Switzerland. Switzerland's very expensive, Erica. Very expensive. Yep. That's a shame. Justin's a very talented IT person. If you use 30% neurosurgery, you deserve. Yeah, okay. Wild bear prepper. Yeah, ANC doesn't care. Watching carefully, observing from side, but hopeful things will come right. Yeah, no, let's hope it does come right. Fiona says that's quite true. UK socialist. Okay. Lost my daughter, son-in-law, and 3 granddaughters. Yes, that's right, George. I'm aware of that. Yep. Yep. And the Netherlands isn't exactly a paradise to go to. They've had a lot of leftists run the country. That's why the right has done so well there. Kat says, we're in Uvong. Okay, I don't know where Uvong is. Okay. Kathy and John. Hey, okay, thank you. Now we know who they are. Okay, where is Uvong? I'm going to have to look that one up in KZN. Google. Uvong, South Africa. Apparently there's one in Korea too. Uvong in South Africa. Vongo, okay. Oh, that's by Margate. Okay. Ah, okay. I know where that's at. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit out of my way. That's I've never gone down there. Although Eric has encouraged me to go to Kokstad to check out the Griquas. That's really far. Yep. Ain't that the truth, the dirt bin? Yeah, it is. As long as you can vote in your hometown for your country, that's good enough. Yeah, saw a few days ago. Okay. Mossad, really? Well, now Lady Pondor is just making an ass of herself. She really needs to stop doing that. Okay, what else we got here? Elect Chris Wyatt, please. We're okay. Yeah, thank you. All right. Sad, but they're safe. I saw a few days ago that Mossad. Okay. Okay. Hey, Peter von Breda's back. Okay. 100% of the money, Chris. We had to train people too, and they subsequently were made our supervisors. Yeah, and they weren't even qualified. Not even qualified. No, I saw that. And one of the coolest movies I ever saw, it's not a fast-paced movie, but it really brought all the social ills and all the angst together, was a movie called The Long Run with Armin Müller von Stahl. Fantastic movie in which he plays a German who immigrated to South Africa decades ago. He's the supervisor at a brick factory, and the transition has come. And the ANC is installing all of their patronage folks, and so he basically loses his job. But he was also the coach of the ultra marathoners. They had an ultra marathon team, which is funny because the guys that were the actors in it is a tubby guy, famous black South African actors who are not athletes, but anyway, they can act. So they were in it and they're pretending to be the ultra marathoners. And so in the long run, he loses his job at the factory to the Nouveau Riche ANC cater, and he's pushed aside. So he rents a bedroom at a farmhouse and from these white couple there, Afrikaners. And he coaches. Well, they push him aside as being the coach, which is really uncool also. So he loses that too, which is devastating. He ran the comrades when he was younger and didn't finish. He didn't make it. So it's been eating at him. He wants to coach runners to finish the race. So as part of this, they had the whole thing with xenophobia because there's a girl named Christine who's from Namibia. And she rides in this combi all the time. And the black guy who drives it knows the German, and they're talking all the time. And you don't see many white folks riding in combis. So they stop to pick up this girl, and she gets in the truck, and she'd obviously talked to the driver before about who he was. And when she gets out of the vehicle, she says farewell in German, and he's caught off guard. And so she runs off in the distance where she lives, and he sees her running. He's like, wow, well, good runner. And then he talks to the driver and says, who's that? And he says, that's Christine. She's from Namibia. Anyway, and so he winds up becoming her coach. And it just brings all of the social contradictions, the chaos, the confusion, the tossing aside of talented white South Africans, all of that, and the xenophobia against other Africans. All of that comes to play in a movie called The Long Run. I watched that in the Ster Kinderchor, I think in Joburg, like 20-some years ago. Yeah, The Long Run. So Armin Mueller-Stahl. Let me see if I can find anything on that movie. Okay. Armin Mueller-Stahl. One of my favorite actors. The Long Run. Yep. 2001. Yeah. The Long Run. Yeah, Armin Mueller-Stahl. Let's see if he's still alive. He was really old then. Let's see if he passed away. He's 93. Armin Mueller-Stahl is still around. Good for him. He's 93. Well, that is so cool. Yeah, you can buy the DVD here in America for $15. Oh, there's only one left in stock. I already have it, so I won't buy it. But I'm trying to find a description of it here. Here, Wikipedia. The 2000 film, but I saw it in 2001. Yeah, The Long Run is a 2000 film starring Oscar nominee Armin Mueller-Stahl as a running coach and Nati Moesh as a young runner. It was directed and written by Jon Stewart and was directed by Jon Stewart and written by Johan Potgieter. The film is based around the Comrades Marathon, ultramarathon race run over a distance approximately 90 kilometers between KZN capital and the Durban coast. Yep. Yeah, he played Bertold Boehmer, and she played Christine Moyo. Natia Moyesh. Let's see if she's still around. What's going on with her? Armin Mueller-Stahl. Wow, he is still around. So she is 54 now. She's South African. Okay. She's done several films. Okay. Huh. And Armin Mueller-Stahl, 93. Retired German film actor, painter, and author. Appeared in numerous English language films since the 1980s. Yep. He grew up in Tilsit in East Prussia. Wow. Yep. His mother was from upper-class family, became a university professor at Leipzig. His father was a bank teller, changed the family surname to Mueller-Stahl. The rest of the family, they were Müller before that, moved to Berlin, where his father fought on the Eastern Front in World War II. He was a concert violinist when he was a teenager. Wow. He was a film and stage actor in East Germany. And then eventually when they merged, he wound up with the rest. He's got a long list of movies here. There must be like 70 or 80 movies he's been in. Yep. Crazy stuff. What a great actor. What a great actor. So The Long Run, he did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more movies after that. Wow, before he did his last movie in 2015. Armin Mueller-Stahl. What a great performer. Yep. All right, do we get 100 yet? 98 votes. Come on, 2 more people vote. Get your percentage down in this poll so I can close it out at 100. Training courses to people playing on their cell phones. How the hell does that make sense? Oh, I'm with you, patron. I'm with you. Sabi River is a sewer line. Ew, that's gross. Ken says she doesn't have to make a butt of herself. She is one. Past Port Shepstone, Wild Coast. Yeah, I see that. Mike's got to go. Okay. Cool beans. Thank you, Mike. 28 years experience does not seem to count for much time. Yeah, Charles, I know. You're right. Yep, that's exactly right. What happens. Yep. It's not just experience if you're talented and you're a leader. I mean, I saw it in the Army. I saw people who were getting promoted to general officer who weren't the best candidates, but they were being picked because the Army had a racist policy in place. Yep, they did. They denied it, but they got sued over it, and it was proven that they had a racist policy in place. George Steinberg is here. Welcome, George. Red Dust. What's this? 28 years ago. Real fake is... Huh? What are you talking about, Carlos Mango? Crocodiles are going blind because of untreated sewage. That's pretty sick. Pretty sick. Oh, we got 100 votes. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the poll now. 103. Thanks for voting, folks. Okay, cool beans. 103 votes. We're going to end the poll. All right, let's see what you guys voted on. Let's see what you came up with. Okay, so it's a pretty big split. 77% of my viewers who voted say that they're going to get between 35 and 44. That's probably pretty safe. 77%. Wow. Why is the ANC sign a closed fist? Because anything else, they would fall out of the tree. No, it's because the closed fist, because they're fisting people up the bum. Yeah, 10% are pessimist. No, 10% are maybe they feel they're realist. Maybe they feel they're realist. Red Dust, a film in 2004. I don't know that one. Yeah, I don't know that film. Another film that I saw, which came out several years later, was White Wedding. That's a comedy in South Africa. That's pretty funny. And then you got Fourie Fouries Labola. Is it Fourie Fourie? Labola or Fouries Labola, something like that. That was a good film. It was funny, but not a great film. But The Long Run was good. White Wedding is a good one. South Africa's had some good films. It's good enough to be active supervisor for 2 years, but the wrong color for a permanent job. Exactly, Charles. They'll use you and then toss you aside. And they claim that it's the right thing to do, which is just sick and twisted. It is twisted. One wrong does not correct another wrong. You do things correctly. Well done to the 34%. Let's hope for the best. Yeah. Well, The Gods Must Be Crazy. That was a great film. The Gods Must Be Crazy. And it was not just big in South Africa. It was big all over the world. The Gods Must Be Crazy. Sandra Prinsloo. Hey, Sandra Prinsloo's relative actually is a viewer of this channel. I haven't seen him for a few days, but yeah, pretty cool. 10% are realist, says Lindy. Lindy Spees, welcome to you. Who counts the votes wins like Zimbabwe? Yeah, the IEC is not competing election, though, unless you're implying the IEC is controlled by the ANC. Maybe that's what you're implying, which could be the case. I can't argue that it is or isn't. But listen, I want to say this very quickly here, folks. Thank you, everyone. Viewership on the program, for some strange reason, has been up recently. I think it's some new people have come in. Thanks. And, it's not easy to get exposure on the PooTube. Yeah, but thank you so much for those who've come in. I mean, look at this. We are an hour and 15 minutes into this broadcast, and we have 90 concurrent viewers right now. It's not quite like it was back in the day before the censorship in 2021, but it is very healthy compared to where we were just a few months back when we were lucky to get 40 or 50 people showing up for live streams. So all the people who stuck around throughout that and all the people who've come subsequently and those who've rediscovered the program since then, thank you so much for it. Happy to be here and happy to have you guys with us. Poll indicates that we shall have an ANC government in June. Well, that's talk about pessimism, John. That's pessimism. I don't know that that's a given. But the bottom line here is that the opposition hasn't done enough. One can only hope that something happens between now and then. Yes, Peter, I've been talking about that in the broadcast. It was one of the things I covered yesterday and I talked about earlier in the broadcast. The ANC desperately wants to deregister the Mkhonto Sizwe party, claiming that they fraudulently registered because they didn't submit a second application, a new one, when their initial one was rejected. It's an administrative thing, and they're going to get away with it probably. We'll see what happens. But if they get away with it, there'll be riots. I'll tell you that right now. If the MK party is removed and not on the ballot in May, there'll be riots in KZN. Yep, there will be riots. So get ready for it. Get ready for it, folks. Get ready. Let's get ready to rumble. MK party will bring armed conflict. The DA needs to win this election, and will win. Well, Michael, what do you mean by win? The DA is not going to get 50 plus 1. I guarantee you that right now. I cannot tell the future, but all I know is that John Cena is the best leader the DA has ever had, and I trust his leadership. Michael, okay. All right. I'm not going to argue, although I thought Helen Zille is pretty incredible. I mean, she's the one that built the party into a national force. It wasn't Tony Leon. It was Helen Zille. She turned that party into a national force. So I don't know. I thought she was a much more dynamic and interesting leader than John Steenhuisen, and she has a thicker skin than John Steenhuisen. I mean, he's a good leader. I don't disagree with that. Very articulate, very smart, has a good bearing about him, and speaks quite well, and also has good policies. But for me, Helen Zille back then, not Helen Zille today, Helen Zille back then was incredible, absolutely incredible. Sad about the Crocs going blind. Yeah, I didn't know about that. That's new for me. Remember to like the show, or else we'd be in the dark on current affairs. Well, that might be true, Debbie. Just like your load shedding being dark. Who do you think will take over from John? I don't know. That's a good question. It's not going to be Helen Zille. I mean, her time has come, and she'll eventually step away from the party. It's hard to say, but I will say that what's the gentleman I interviewed is brilliant down there. He's a shadow minister for police for the DA. What's his name? Oh, gosh. Who did I interview? Man, oh man, oh man, I'm drawing a blank now. So that was a live, and that would have been in August. Let me see how long it takes me to get to August here. So it's going to take a few minutes to get there. What's his name? Anybody remember who I interviewed? No, not Jordan Hill Lewis. Jordan Hill Lewis is a Cape Town mayor. Possible. but I don't know that he has the chops yet. So come on. This guy is brilliant. Chris Pappas is a future leader of the Democratic Alliance if he sticks with the party. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Chris Pappas is brilliant. He is smart guy, very articulate, and he's overcome some serious baggage in a place like South Africa. Look, I'm not saying anything about him. I'm just saying, look, I mean, just be honest. When you run and you're gay, it's not a leg up in politics normally, except in San Francisco. But normally it's not a leg up. But no one cares about that, and no one should care about that. So I'm just trying to find him now. Okay, that was Jacques Borger and Skalk Brits. Come on. Where's he at? Putin. Come on. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank here. Barry Hilton. No. Come on. It was when I went to the Eastern Cape there. That's June. I wasn't. Oh, come on. It was a live stream. Why is it not showing up here? Or did I put it on afterwards? Maybe it was put on afterwards. Huh. Yeah, it's not here. God bless it. Who was that? Ronaldo seemed to have very little. I don't know if you mean desire. He has no desire. I don't know if he has no desire. That may be true, but I don't know. Let me go back. Maybe I posted after the fact. Let me see. So October, I got fewer posted videos because I cut down on those. September, that's the rugby. A lot of rugby stuff here. Okay, August. Okay, it was in August when I talked to him. Francois van Koch, the BRICS Summit, National Convention. It was before the multi-party charter. Secret of Jacob Zuma. That was funny. Retief Odendaal. Good Lord. Retief Odendaal. That's who I was thinking of. Retief Odendaal. Not Retief Odendaal. No, I'm sorry. He's the mayor. Not Retief. Andrew Whitfield. Sorry, Andrew Whitfield. That's what I'm thinking of. Retief Odendaal was a smart guy, but Andrew Whitfield for the DA. Okay, if you're a DA supporter, Andrew Whitfield. That's who I was trying to think of. Sorry. He's the shadow minister on police. Yep. Andrew Whitfield. Yeah, Samir. Andrew Whitfield. That's who I was thinking of. Very articulate, very intelligent, very smart guy. Roberto has so many degrees, he chooses stage as counselor. You don't know that he chooses that, Michael. See, you have to understand, unlike myself, who chooses to run to be a member of the state legislature, that's a choice I make. I run as an individual for the candidates in the Republican primary. So 5 of us running. I choose to run. Ronaldo is part of a political party in South Africa where you don't vote for people. You vote for a party. So you must be part of the party structure. You must impress the party, not the voter, the party. And then the party will elevate you because in South Africa, it's party over people. So Ronaldo may indeed have aspirations for going higher. We don't know. The fact that he hasn't run higher doesn't mean he doesn't have aspirations. You know, they have a process. They interview people. They bring them in the party, and then the party decides, okay, well, we like Jack, or we like Gene, or we like Barry, we like Lisa. And then they put them in order. There you go. And if you fall below the cut, then you don't get a seat. Simple as that. See, we don't know that he hasn't. Well, you don't know that he hasn't run for leadership, Michael. Do you know that for a fact? Do you know that he hasn't run for leadership in the DA? Can you state that unequivocally? I mean, I'm not putting you in a spot. I'm just asking. Chris Pappas is a South African politician who's the mayor. Yeah, phenomenal guy. He's doing a fantastic job, Debbie. I've interviewed him several times. I'm going to try to get an interview with him again here very soon. When the Zillow was mayor, she wrote her Twitter about the beach showers. They were fixed. Yeah, because people were afraid of Helen Zillow. They got their work done. So many degrees. Okay, all right, got that. Andrew Whitfield is who it was, Samir. That's who I was trying to think of. I could not think of it. He is very impressive. Yes, Whitfield is very impressive, Ken Anderson. I agree with you. Chris Pappas is also excellent. Yep. Exactly. And Erica just said, all right, you have to vote for the party, not the person. Myra's out of here. Yeah, but you can climb. Okay. Party over people is the downfall of South Africa. It is, Daniel Funsale. It is exactly what the problem is. Party over people is the downfall of South Africa. And we don't have that formally here in America, but we do have it in practice when you think about it. The system is rigged. The system is rigged. It takes money. It takes influence. It is very difficult to run a grassroots campaign as a candidate who stands for the right things to get the attention, the notoriety, the doors open, the donations, the support, the help that you need. Unless you are a member of a political party and you do what that political party tells you to do. Something's missing here. Where did I put that at? Anyway. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah. So there you go. There you go. And that is, we don't have a party over people, but in essence, many times, look at the U.S. Congress. Every time there's a vote in the House, every damn Democrat votes the same way. regardless of whether something is good or bad for the country. They don't care. They do not care. They're like the ANC in Latuli House. If you step out of line for the Democrats in Congress, you'll be vilified. You'll be targeted, and they'll get rid of you, even though you run in a race. It's very simple. Look at what happened in the last election. The Senate was lost because Mitch McConnell's ineptitude, because Mitch McConnell is a Republican in name only, a deep state, scum-sucking dirtbag. That's what Mitch McConnell is. He's a leech, a boil on the Senate. And instead of supporting candidates in Nevada, in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, in New Hampshire, he chose not to support those candidates and not put any of the money from the Senate Republican Senatorial Campaign Fund to help them. Don Bolduc lost in New Hampshire. Should have won that race. Money would have made a difference with signs and appearances and other things like that. Advertising would have made a difference. In a national election, that makes a difference. Don Bolduc lost. In Nevada, by hundreds of votes, we lost a Republican candidate to take that seat in Nevada. In Pennsylvania, because of Trump's stupid decision to endorse Oz and not McCormick or even Kathy Barnett, we wind up with John Fetterman in the Senate. The list goes on and on. Kerry Lake should have won in Arizona. So this goes down, quite frankly, to Mitch McConnell. Yep. So it's, in his case, it was party, the Republican Country Club party, not the Republican Party of people who are there for the people, we the people, in order for a more perfect union for ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution. That's right. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But George Washington warned us at the outset of our nation, be weary of political parties, for they can be the death of a nation. That's not an exact quote, but that's basically what he said. Andrew Whitfield, South African politician, has been the Shadow Mission Police and is a member of the National Assembly. That's correct, Debbie. Thanks for sharing that. John Jarvis says, Ronaldo is going through the process to become a member of Parliament. Well, John, yeah, did Ronaldo mention that on his program? Chris Pappas can speak Zulu. That's correct. All right. Problem with South Africa is the constitutional model is wrong. It's not democracy. Chris, you also have very biased media against you there, because if you don't follow propaganda rules, you won't get airtime. That's true, Daniel. That's true. But you mean in the country, or you mean against me? In the country, that's true. An election like this, it's not a major factor. Not a major factor. Because an election like this, the answer is door to knocking on doors, talking to people, going to events, meeting people at the local level, and turning out that vote. That's the key. That's the key in this election. Yep. Then it filters down uneducated voters to a straight ticket. They vote only party and not individual issues. Yeah, that happens. That happens. But you can't do that in Pennsylvania anymore. It isn't a straight ticket. You got each race, and that's how it should be done. This race, and then you have to change up. So truly hope a private security company will accompany the IEC ballot boxes. Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, but that'll take a lot of them. Fetterman, yep. All right, and what else? What else here? Okay. What else did I miss here? Fiona says her sister lives in Howard and says he is phenomenal. You can watch him here on my program. Chris Pappas, okay. Let's see. 2 interviews here, August and January. One for 31 minutes, one for 44. So yeah, that was on my channel. Let's this was in January. So here we are. This is when I interviewed Chris Pappas back in January last year.
Chris Pappas. Chris, it's good to see you. Mayor, it's good to see you again.
Thank you very much for being here. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, it's been, 5 or 6 months, which is pretty
Key, as I say. But yeah, cash flow is good. We are able to pay up to date. Access to capital is an issue, but that's a problem in all small municipalities that are grant dependent.
Yeah, so that was, I've interviewed him 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. And I interviewed him before when no one else was interviewing him, which was pretty cool. People weren't interviewing him, and I interviewed him, which is pretty cool. Now everybody wants to interview him. Yep, they all want to interview him now. Yep. Oh boy, little steps then. Says Julie, what are you talking about? Your experience at firsthand, Chris, how hard it is to canvas. Oh, I know, Debbie, I know. And I knew that going in. But you know what? Look, people have been watching my program for the past 4 years and encouraging me to run for office. And first off, let me be clear about something. Technically, I couldn't run for this office until now. Because even though I lived in Pennsylvania legally, technically, although people probably look the other way, but I won't look the other way because I don't cheat. I cannot run for a statewide office unless I've been a resident of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for 4 years. Well, I've been here since 2015, so do the math. Wow, that's like 9.5 years. So nope, because I was still technically legally a resident of Ohio, where my driver's license, where I entered the military, where I voted through federal absentee ballot, and I paid taxes. That's where I was a resident of. Even though I lived here, I was a resident of Ohio because there's a special law for military so that you remain a resident of your state, so you can't be taxed in multiple states unfairly. So I wasn't eligible because remember I retired in October of 2019. So 2020, 21, 22, 23, 2023, 4 years. So 4 years later in November 2023 or October, I was eligible to become a candidate here. So this is the first time I can actually legally run for a statewide office in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Yep. So there you go. I was ahead of the pack, Endo. I was also ahead of the pack with Neil DeBeer. Now everybody wants to interview Neil DeBeer as well. Yep, and I tried to get the IFP. I never did get Mangosuthu Buthelezi before his passing, but I have got Venenkosi Labisa. I've had him when no one else was talking to him. And, of course, I've also talked to Bantu Holomisa, and very few people ever talk to Bantu Holomisa. So, see the SAR going to sell off its gold reserves. What? I did not see that. Did not see that. When did that come out? I didn't see that anywhere. Yeah, is Fiona leaving? Okay. He's matured so much since this amazing interview. Yeah. You really have done so much. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. I've certainly tried. I've certainly covered elections in South Africa more than any media outlet. That's for darn sure. I can say that unequivocally. Yep. How much I cover between now and May, we'll see. It depends on what goes on in my race. So, yep. Okay. Yeah, no, Chris Pappas is really coming into his own. Smart guy. The DA is very fortunate that, of course, I don't think there's many places for him to gravitate to, but with leaders like Andrew Whitfield, Retief Odendaal, and Chris Pappas, the future is bright for the DA. Excuse me. Well, first off, trickle down is a silly nickname. It's an insulting nickname meant to diminish what it's talking about. So let's just put it in perspective, Michael. Okay, so trickle down is an effort to undermine the concept of what Reagan did about tax cuts. The argument here is that tax cuts fuel the economy. Well, let me tell you how it works. So if a government doesn't spend, okay, this is the first thing. They keep talking about government investing. Government paying social grants is not investing in anything. Government paying for infrastructure can be an investment. That's an exception. Government paying for research can be an investment if it doesn't crowd out the private sector. But let's say I work for business. My tax rate is 35%, which is what the federal tax rate was for businesses here until Trump. You lower that to 0%. 35 cents of every dollar I no longer pay to the federal government. Now, you might be saying, wait, that's a lot of money going to the federal government. Well, if you look at the numbers, it's not that much. The federal government is now spending $7 trillion per year. $1 trillion. And they're getting about $380, $400 billion from corporate tax. Eliminate that tax. Now, what happens to that money? The government's using it to buy $800 toilet seats. They're using it to build highways to nowhere. They're using it to ingratiate congressional districts with projects and build statues and bronzes and all kinds of things. Now, they do use it for some good, military and some other things, but the money is not being invested for the most part. It's being squandered. So that 35 cents of every dollar from my corporation, I no longer have to pay to the federal government. Guess what I can do with that money? I can pocket it. Sure, I can do that. I can also invest it in my business to grow my business, to create new locations, franchise, go different places. I can spend it on research, develop new drugs or new mechanical devices or new software, new computers. I can also return some of that money to my shareholders, which will make my company more profitable or more valuable and get more people to invest in it when I issue bonds. When I need, I can get bonds at a lower rate, which saves me money. If my company is wealthy and I want to borrow a bunch of capital to build a new factory to build semiconductors and I need $4 billion to do it, instead of borrowing from banks, I can issue bonds. And if my company is well known and famous because we've been so successful, because we've invested in our company and our employees, then people will buy the bonds knowing they're going to get paid back, and I pay a lower interest rate than I would have with a bank. So the other thing I can do with that money is I can pay dividends directly to my shareholders or buy back stock, which reduces the number of shares available, increases the value of their holdings, and shows my loyalty to the people who invest in the company. And finally, I can increase benefits and or salary for my employees. Now, the most likely thing that happens when government taxes are cut on businesses, they pay their employees more, they pay their shareholders a bit more, and they invest in their company either for expansion or for development or for research. That's what happens. Time and time and time again. Very few people give me all the money, put it in my pocket. That rarely happens. Self-defeating. So if my business grows because now I have that 1/3 of the money is mine, not the federal government to squander buying, $800 toilet seats. Now I will use that money to build a new location in Frederick, Maryland. Let's say I have a petrol station and a convenience store. Well, now I'm going to build my brand petrol station in Frederick and draw business. Guess what? I have to hire 25 people to work there for the shifts and to run the place and a manager. They all get paid. And if I have a company that gives benefits to employees like health, dental, stock options, guess what? Those employees now have a job and a better paying job than they would have had if the government wasn't stealing my money. So I pay them more, get the loyalty of those workers, get better quality workers, and they have a salary. What do they do with that? Well, they go and buy televisions and cars and pay rent or make a home loan and buy homes, and it trickles throughout the economy. That's what trickle-down economics is. It's an insulting term written by leftist economists to deride the reality that it works. It works, it works, it works, it works. The government taking your money and spending it unproductively does not create jobs. I saw Joe Biden claiming that he's created 14.8 million jobs. That's a lie. Joe Biden created 0 jobs. Donald Trump created 0 jobs. The federal bureaucracy, the executive branch, is the only place where the chief executive can create jobs. And unless the payroll of the federal government is increased during their presence, then they haven't created any jobs. And here's the thing. Every time they create a job in the federal bureaucracy, they remove several jobs in the private sector by stealing money from the private sector. Presidents can cause jobs to disappear through their inept macroeconomic policies and their foreign policy or their war on energy. They can make them disappear overnight. They can also ensure that a field is level and that corporations create jobs like Trump did by lowering the corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%. It should be 0, but it was 21%. Billions and billions and billions of dollars of money parked offshore that companies didn't want to bring back because they had to give 1/3 of it over to the federal government who took no risk to generate that revenue. They took all the risk as a corporation. They brought billions back by saving that 14%, which increased the amount of money available to the corporation to reinvest in dividends, to reinvest in stock, to reinvest in employees. The list goes on and on. So that is trickle down, Michael. And it's an insulting term. It isn't a trickle down. It is how an economy actually works when it's not interfered with by corrupt governments. Did I answer your question, Michael? And hopefully you're still here because I did go after it. Like you, he has his own town and best interest in really applying everything is investing in his own areas. Makes sense. I have no idea what Debbie's talking about. I missed something there. Oh, you're talking about Chris Pappas. If the VA would lose their unobtainable national aspirations back secession, we may get somewhere. Well, yeah, you may get somewhere in the Western Cape, Ken, but no one else is going to get anywhere. The VA is a national party. Should they abandon the rest of their supporters around the country? It's a fair question. That's why I wrote what I did, says Ken. It is a political expediency. They don't really care about it. The only party that's really come around to it is like the Freedom Front Plus. Yep. What else we got here? Agree with Ken. Coalition will fail if DA does not change their arrogance. So do you reject all types of government spending? What should privatize? Oh, okay. Well, okay. Good question, Michael. Michael, you're asking good questions today. No, obviously governments are necessary. People are bad actors. Not all, but a small percentage. So you need law enforcement. You need functioning courts so you can settle disputes between people and corporations. I mean, if I sell my merch to another person and they fail to pay me, what do? Do I go beat them up? No, I have to take them to court. You have to have a functioning system for a right of redress. So you have to have a court system. You have to have an executive, you have a legislature to create laws to punish the malfeasant actors. But the role of government is not to pick winners and losers. It's to ensure a level playing field for everyone. So Jim Crow was not a level playing field. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were level playing field and gave equality to people who had formerly been enslaved and citizenship by virtue of birth because they were born here. However, that was undermined by Jim Crow era laws by people who prevented a level playing field and corrupt governments that allowed that to happen. So black Americans in particular were discriminated against for decades with laws, just like black South Africans were discriminated against for decades under apartheid with law. And white and other minority South Africans are being discriminated against today with law. Law makes it legal, but it doesn't make it moral. So, what types of spending should government have? Well, military. That's clearly stated in our Constitution. It's necessary to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. So that's necessary. We have all sorts of other requirements. So, for instance, we have a financial market. So there has to be some sort of financial regulator to ensure that there aren't miscreants like, who's the guy, Bernie Madoff, or Ken Flower and the whole Enron scandal. That should never have happened. The government's job was to ensure that that wasn't taking place, to protect people. That's its role. And what should be privatized? Well, in the U.S. economy, Amtrak should never receive a penny from the government. If it cannot sustain itself as an independent entity, then it shouldn't exist. We shouldn't be paying billions of dollars every year to it. The U.S. Postal Service should not be owned by the government. We give it an extra $4.6 billion a year because it's not profitable. While the Postal Service is not profitable, UPS, FedEx, DHL have nationwide networks of ground and air services which can deliver packages, next day letters, more efficiently, more effective. They pay UPS drivers $50 an hour around here. $50 an hour, folks. And they make money. UPS does. How can they have a global enterprise with hundreds of thousands of employees delivering packages in Botswana and here and make money, but the Postal Service can't? Now, there are reasons for that, but that's another thing that should be privatized. The government shouldn't be paying subsidies to the sugarcane industry. As a consequence, we pay 3 times the world market price for sugar in this country, which has distorted our diets, which has distorted our economy, because instead of buying sugar, food processors buy high fructose corn syrup, a sweetener derived from maize, which is very unhealthy. They put that in soft drinks, fizzy drinks. They put that in food to sweeten it rather than cane sugar. We also subsidize beet farmers in Louisiana for the sugar that comes from that. That should not be subsidized. We should not be subsidizing dairy farmers at all. And we certainly shouldn't be subsidizing maize farmers to grow maize to make ethanol. It's ridiculous. Ethanol is a losing proposition. You get 103 to 105% of the energy, so you barely get more energy out of it than you put into the whole process. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, it's asinine. And we pollute entire landscapes with nitrogen and phosphorus overflows by fertilizing soil in the Midwest. It's all washed off the soil, goes into the water table, down the Mississippi, Missouri, goes down, and we have dead zones in the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, because of that outflow of all those nutrients, which you have dead zones where the oxygen's completely gone because of algae blooms. It's the knock-on effects of government stupidity are unbelievable. Unbelievable. We encourage people to live in deserts where there's no damn water. And then we divert entire ecosystems to give them water. And then we have leftists tell the world, ooh, it's climate change, it's climate change. No, there's too many freaking people in Southern California, you morons. You divert the entire Colorado River so that when it gets to Baja California, it's just a trickle. It used to be a massive river that flowed down there. Salinity levels in that sea are now much higher than they should be because fresh water is not arriving there, because it goes to Arizona, to Indian reservations in the middle of the frickin' desert to grow cotton, just like in Kazakhstan, where they grow cotton and divert the rivers that fed the Aral Sea, creating ecological disaster of man-made proportions. This is what government does. It destroys things. By the way, we finally saw an article from The Guardian recently which admitted the truth. Well, we're surprised that global climate change is not affecting the United States nearly as much as our models predict. Yeah, because your models are flawed. There are more trees in the eastern United States, east of the Mississippi River, than there were when Europeans first arrived in the Americas in the 15th century. More trees. When Europeans began colonizing New England, they cut down trees indiscriminately, cut them all down. The same thing in other parts. Pennsylvania, massive timber state, cut trees down everywhere. Well, without government intervention, without government programs, without government-sponsored garbage, Americans have been planting more trees in the past century than ever. And as a consequence, we have greater tree cover. And guess what those trees do? They absorb carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And what do they give us? Oxygen. That's right. What do they also do? The roots retain soil and reduce erosion. So we have less land loss. Look at that. We have fewer silted up river estuaries. We have fewer silted up bays. What an interesting concept. Government is part of the problem. Always has been. Govern, not me. Okay. It would be nice if the Western Cape became independent. First thing must be to deport people. That's not going to happen. Yeah, so there you go, Michael. Those are some of the things that I would privatize. No, really, Chris? I'm not sure what that's in response to. Drop in a bucket. Hello, drop in a bucket. Mark Myberg. Okay, so an hour and 44. This is a lot longer than I intended to go with this one, folks. Wow, but we've been really gotten into a conversation here about the role of government. So Mike Holmes has asked a lot of, I think, thoughtful questions today. Thank you for that, Michael Holmes. Appreciate that. Sending my 2 cookies and coffee bags so you can vote correctly. Henda would ban Karens and communists. Yeah, no, they're not very far apart, those two groups. Anyway, so the cat is out of the bag, folks. Now you know I'm running for political office here in Pennsylvania. Wish me well. I know most of my viewers, almost all of them here, can't vote for me, but thank you for your good thoughts. And I'm doing this because I think it's necessary. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their nation. And I agree. This nation is in serious peril, as is South Africa. And it's up to voters to change that trajectory in May and in November. Here is a chance for people in this district to change the trajectory. Now, the thing is that if I win the election, I'm replacing a representative who has done well for this district, but she's no longer going to be there. We don't want to see that fall off. So I'm not criticizing the current representative. They've done a fantastic job. What I'm saying is that we can't afford for that to slide down. Save us a button as a keepsake for when you're famous. Well, I don't know about being famous, but these little buggers are expensive. Anyway, but I will save some buttons. They're not that expensive. Anyway, so yeah, but what do you guys think of the logo? I mean, let me ask you this, okay? So what do you, here, put this one up here. So there it is. So what do you think of my logo? All right, that's an easy one to answer. Do you like the logo for my campaign? I'll leave that one up there so people can answer the question. See how many votes we get for that. We still got 70 people here at this hour. Thanks for being here. 130 likes. That's awesome. We're doing well in the like aspect of this. Pretty cool. So, yeah, there's a chance. 5 people voted already. Do you like the logo? So I came up with a concept for my, what they call, let me go get that real quick. I'll be right back. Hang on. The concept for what they call palm cards. Palm cards are when you meet people and you hand them a card with information about your candidacy. So here's my palm card right there. We got to do it this side here. There you go. So we got the Capitol building there, and I'm not presuming that I'm the representative. I'm asking people to elect me. And so I put down some of the things, and then a Facebook and a Twitter page as well. And yeah, so that's the front of it. Now people are like, but that doesn't look like you. I said, okay, hang on. I got it covered. I got it covered. There you go. So there I am with the, and look at that. That's the castle in Cape Town, the castle. So that's a recent photograph of me in Cape Town, along with me in uniform, and a little bit of biography and things why I'm running. And there is the American flag down there at the bottom. So pretty cool. Anyway, I hope you guys like that as well. Boy, people leaving now. We just lost 4 people. You have more problems than us, says Mark. Okay. It's about time that we really discuss the global warming nonsense. Stop chopping down trees to progress. Yep. Where's the logo? It's right above me there. There it is right there. There's the logo. There's the logo. Looks great, says, okay. Yeah. Okay, take us to warp speed. Yep. Leilu says, I'm the tall end again. Wow, but luck, wishing you only the best, Chris. Okay. Well, thank you, Layla. You go, Chris. Love your logo. Yeah, no. So I came up with a vision for this card of what I wanted, and the person who made it for me as a graphic artist was brilliant. So I picked the photographs, and I picked the Capitol building. Other people come up with other things but they're all the same. So mine's different than others, and I think it's catchy and gets people's attention. We're going to have a longer card here soon, a 3x9. That's a 4x6. So I'll have one that's a little bit narrower and longer and give to people with more information. So, yep. Yep. Anyway, so how many people voted now? 38 votes. All the best in this journey. You've got the head and experience to make a positive difference. Well, I think so too, drop in a bucket, and that's why I've gotten into the race. I have 4 competitors in this race, and the key will be to introduce myself to people so they get to know me and see how it goes. But if I don't get out and meet people, I'm not going to get elected. So that's a big part of what's going on. What's going on here? Hang on a second. Oh, part of that's coming off. Wow. So, yeah. Anyway, What else? So very professional, says Ken. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So everybody so far likes the card. That's pretty cool. 38 votes. Wow, that's awesome. I don't think I've ever had a poll that said 100%. So cool. Yep. No, he did a great job. Why not use Colonel? It's on there, Julie. It's on there. So on the back here, it says Colonel retired, Chris Wyatt. So you probably can't see that very well, but it's right there. It has it, but so when there's a rule, I mean, the military doesn't endorse political candidates, so I have to put something on here. Oh, there's a super chat from Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate that. Wow, thank you for that 350. That 350 is becoming a standard for a few folks, Andreo, and also for Debbie. Thank you so much for that, Debbie. No, but in here I have to put down that the on the photo I said that the photo does not imply Department of Defense endorsement. Yep. So photo does not imply DoD endorsement. I have to do that because if I show my uniform, we can't mislead voters in thinking that the Army endorses my candidacy because the Army is apolitical and doesn't endorse candidacies. But if I don't do that, I could get in trouble. That's actually a rule. So fortunately, I was wise enough to know that. And that's one reason I checked into that a while back. So a bookmark card. Yeah, it's a great bookmark. It'll fit right in a book. That's brilliant. Yep. But this logo is pretty cool. The reason I like this logo, so let me put it back up on the screen here and I'll explain to you why I like it. So look what he did. My initial thought was all caps. It's a small name, 5 letters, easy to remember, Wyatt. All caps, and it pops with all caps. But the graphic designer wanted to put a star on there, so he put the star under the W, and look how it fits right in the W, perfect like that. And then the Chris, because he went lowercase, the Chris is nestled between the W and the T. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Great logo. I did a fantastic job. So we got more stuff coming out here soon. I'm supposed to meet with the designers here this week. I also have these big magnets that say that. They go on the door of my car when I stop places, pull out, and it covers the entire door. They were not cheap. And then I also I got a few of these buttons here, and I'll be getting some magnets that people can put on the back of their car, on their bumpers and such like that, and their trunks, so that they can support the case. Yep. Anyway, so... the largest Amish population found in the state of Pennsylvania, 87,000. That's probably about right, Julie. It might be a little bit more than that. I think there's over 100,000 actually in Pennsylvania. But that's because this is where the Amish started, and they spread across the country. So, yep. Anyway. Okay, you missed my comment about honesty or did not wish to comment. I didn't see your comment, Ken. What was your comment about honesty? Okay, I'm going to end at 44 votes. It's pretty good. So let me go back to see what Ken had to say. I didn't see anything from Ken. Very professional. That's the last thing I saw from Ken. So what do you say about honesty? Okay, you're too honest to go into politics. Oh, well, thank you. That's a very kind compliment there. I do appreciate that. Well, maybe. We'll see. But here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. I'm not going into politics. I'm running to represent the people, to be a servant leader. That's what I'm doing. I'm not there for the glory and the platitudes. I'm not there for salary. I'm not there for a whole bunch of things. I'm running to make a difference, and I don't plan on it being a lifelong vocation. That's the difference. Mayor, I'm running for representative. Where do you get that mayor from? Representative, member of the state legislature. It's like the provincial MEC, like an MEC in South Africa. Yeah, I'll be an MEC essentially if I win. Yep, red, white, and blue on the banner. That's correct, Hendo. Yeah, of course. Well, Julie says all caps offensive some. Of course, yeah, but then we have Hendo. Everything's in all caps for him. Can we see an option A and C colors? No A and C color options here. Sorry, folks. Smartly done, like the star under the W. Nicely done. Yeah, it really pops. It does. Yep. You're going to have to get rid of the beard to get the younger vote. Well, why does everybody assume young people show up? They don't. That doesn't mean you ignore the young vote, but the young people don't vote. Also, I know my district. This is central Pennsylvania. The beard is look, some people don't like the beard, but far more people do like the beard. Yep. I think that Peter's talking about God is using the expression of, yeah, center, I'll be your bodyguard. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate that. We know that. I hope that your American supporters know that. If you lose, at least you know you were honest. Exactly, Fleshin. Exactly. Not only will I know I'm honest, but also if I lose, I can say I made an effort, a genuine effort. Folks, I'm telling you, I walked my butt off. I mean, think about this. It's cold. It's below freezing temperatures outside. Walking in the mist and the rain. And then when it's below freezing, you know, walking in that cold temperature, and it gets dark at 5 p.m. already when people aren't even home from work, and you're ringing doorbells and introducing yourself, and people are reticent to open the doorbell to somebody they don't know. Some people don't want to open the doorbell because they see a beard. And most people that don't open the doorbell just don't want to open the door because they don't know who you are. And trying to tell people who you are and ask them to sign your petition or ask them to vote for you. It's a very humbling experience. And it's a very time-consuming and a very exhausting experience. But there you go. Anyway, so the reason I held back on telling people is because it wasn't official that I was on the ballot until today. Now I know I'm on the ballot. I had the requisite number of signatures. I completed the paperwork properly, all of which can trip you up. Just ask the ELF in South Africa, who are fighting with the EFF and the IEC, and ask the MK party, who are fighting with the ANC, over whether you fill the paperwork out properly. Yep. I knew he was sharp, but I'm learning how brainy he truly is. Who's that, Julie? Talking about me? Yeah, American colors all the way. Yeah, most young people don't show up. They vote on TikTok and Instagram. That's 100% correct, Kendo. There are young people who vote, but one of my opponents is 22 years old. 22 years old. There's a young person running. But yeah, if I didn't know you and you knocked on my door, I'd just get a bottle of clip and yeah, hit it. Exactly, Arctic. Exactly. Okay. Erica said, far too honest. That's why I didn't go into politics. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there you have it, folks. Again, I wasn't sure I was going to broadcast today. We aren't doing, of course, Wednesdays with Colonel. You know that by now. Ronaldo is out of town. He's East London, I think he's where he's at tonight. So he's not available. And so we weren't doing that anyway, which worked well for me because initially I thought I would be at the state capitol for several hours. But they went through, there's 203 seats in the Pennsylvania House. And in those 203 seats, they have to run through every race. Even if there's only one candidate, they have to draw a number out, and they get that number, and then they wind up on the list first because they're the only candidate. But in my race, there were 5 people, and I drew my number. I was the next last one to draw. Only 2 of us went, so I was the first of the group there to draw. But the fourth of 5 candidates, because the other ones had filed earlier, so I pulled it out, and I wound up in the middle of the pack. I didn't get the lower number, so yeah. Arctic says, after direct, because if you win, we'll see less of you on YouTube. That's not a given. That's not a given. So we'll see. We'll see. Do you get travel perks? Actually, they do. They do, Arctic. They do get travel perks. Pennsylvania is a matter of public record. I'm not sharing anything that's a state secret. Pennsylvania is a matter of public record. Their members of the House and Senate get a per diem of like $183 per day when they're doing official business. Now, I don't know the details of that, but I got the impression that they can just claim that. They don't have to provide receipts. I don't know if that's true, but some people have told me that's true. I can't believe that to be the case. I can imagine that. In the Army, you got to have receipts for everything. Signal jammer when the ring doorbells won't work. Yeah, exactly. That's what I need to ban. The signal jammer would be great. Exactly. What's this a few times? What's Hendo saying? Senator Doug Master goes live streaming daily. Yeah, well, I'll probably start doing that on Facebook myself, but I don't really use Facebook much for streaming. But Doug Mastriano, by the way, it's ironic because, of course, people know that I know Doug. We're friends. We served at the War College together. I covered his campaign for governor as an independent journalist. When the media lied and said they were denied access to his campaign, which is simply factually incorrect, all you had to do is actually request. You can't just show up and demand to come in, which is what the media did because they're just arrogant. In the case of Doug Mastriano, I contacted his campaign, requested access, and every time they gave me access. It was great. It's fantastic. So I was honest, but the media are dishonest. So, yeah. Yeah, so the live streaming thing, I'll probably start doing that. But anyway, what I was trying to say is that, so when I filed on February 9th, I was walking down the street towards the building where you turn in your filing petition. And who did I see? But Doug Mastriano. It was pretty cool. So Doug had just filed to run again for the Senate because he served 4 years now in the Pennsylvania Senate. It's a 4-year term, not a 6-year term. 4 years. And he has to run again this year. So he's also running for election this year. Hey, Picky, there you go. You just tuned in. Here's the news, Picky. You didn't see this. Jessica, there you go. I'm running for the Pennsylvania State Legislature. In case you didn't know that, we just announced it today. Debbie says, Chris is so organized, he multitasks like none of us, so stay tuned, people. Exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. So there you go. There you go. Unfortunately, she's not in my district, even though she lives in this state, so she can't vote for me. But yeah, so, yep. Please come on Caravan to midnight and make the formal announcement. Oh, you've been here the whole time. Okay, well, I didn't know that. Anyway, cool beans. Yeah, Janet's here too. Hey, Janet. Wow, everybody's just chirping in now. Caravan to midnight, Julie. Yeah, well, I mean, apparently it was posted on, Hendo had it posted in the group there. So if they want me to come on, I'm happy to come on there. Yep. Today there was a journalist covering the lottery, which was interesting. And he heard me talking to someone else and he said, "Are you Mr. Wyatt?" I said, "Yes, I am Chris Wyatt." He says, "Well, I'm with, votebeat.org. He said, "Can I ask you a few questions? I'm a journalist." And I said, "Sure." So we talked and he asked why I was coming to the event and if I thought it mattered. And I told him my thoughts. So yeah, yesterday I appeared in the local paper in York, it's in this region. But it's distributed throughout the region. And a couple weeks ago I was in another paper, but that's the only papers that cover the area. So yep. Janice says, "Exciting news. Hope it's not going to cut down on your pods." You passed by here the other day and you didn't stop. You're probably in a hurry to get from one place to another. I appreciate that. So good to see you were down this way, though. Yep. Anyway, so Erica says, "How's the mama doing?" Okay. Cool. So we are at 133 likes and we are at 2 hours. I'm going to wrap it up here, folks. I broke the news to you, which I've been keeping to myself, not because of state secret, because I didn't want to try to get on the ballot and then fail and then make a big deal about it. I'm on the ballot now and I have 4 competitors. There's 5 people in this race, Republican primary, April 23rd. And so I'll be going to the polls before South Africans do, and I will know whether I will continue on in November. But it's going to take a Herculean effort, lots of work on my part. And yeah, well, the primary election here is on April 23rd. It's a matter of public record. You can look it up anywhere online, see when Pennsylvania's election is. But that's the election. Also, bear in mind that I'm a judge of elections. So that's the person who oversees the polling station. I cannot do that. I contacted the Board of Elections for the county in early January and told them that I was not going to be able to be the judge of elections because I'm running in the race. So I didn't resign as judge. I'm simply disqualifying myself, and so they have to replace me with someone. Didn't know I was going to pass there. I'll spread the word. Best of luck. They will be lucky to have you. Well, that's very kind of you. Leon says we believe in you. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I do appreciate it. Very kind of you. We'll see how it goes. I was asked by one of these political action committees if I was going to run a positive or negative campaign. I said, why would I run a negative campaign? There's no reason to run a negative campaign. I have nothing evil to say about my opponents. Yeah. So we think of you here. Thank you, Petra. I appreciate that. Awesome stream. All right, everybody take care. Mark says your intelligence experience will enable you to read the situation. Well, I think it's helped with it so far. And Erica has just put his super chat in there. Wow, thanks, Erica. 140 Rand. Cool beans. By the way, folks, let me take a look. Today is the 21st. So we got 8 days left in this month. And just give you an update on how things are going because I know people are always curious about the revenue. It's a slow month. We are at about 55% of last month's revenue, and we got a week to go. So we're not going to catch last month. We're not going to catch the month before this. We're not going to catch any month since September. Wow. Yeah. Going back to last summer, we haven't had it been low. So February's been a salty cracks month. But again, we don't do it for the revenue. We just appreciate that. It does help. So that's it, folks. Thanks for being here. And there's your big news announcement. I've shared it. And I do have a Facebook page for my candidacy, and I do have a Twitter page for my candidacy. I will share that with the mods, and the mods can spread that around so people can go find out about my candidacy. So, all right. Thank you for that. And maybe I'll put it in some of the groups if people want to go check it out. You can follow it on my campaign, even though you're not an eligible voter. That doesn't matter. You can follow my Twitter account for the campaign, even though you're not an eligible voter. There's nothing wrong with that. So that helps grow the numbers, and I do appreciate it. So thank you all so much. Have a lovely day. God bless. And yeah, Gus says great news. Well, we'll see. It's a lot of hard work. Thanks, everybody. And yeah, Fiona's so glad she's able to tune in tonight. Well, this was the big announcement. Mike, who had to leave earlier, knew it was coming because he's here in Pennsylvania. I needed him for some help with something, so I kind of let him know about it. Then I let a few other people know selectively earlier. Thank you, Erica. There's the super chat finally coming up. I let a few people know selectively earlier, and now I'm letting everybody know. So thanks a lot, everybody. We'll catch you later on, and it is always a pleasure. Bye-bye, donkey. Merci mille fois. Vielen Dank, and take care of yourselves. Cheers.